This video is sponsored by MaxSpeedingRods.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Slightly Modified YouTube channel, and today is a big day. Why, may you ask? Because the Is300 is going to get more love. Now, when I drove this thing the other day, I'm not going to lie, the suspension was really sketchy. It was all blown out. It was the ride was terrible. Things were clunking and making big, huge thumping noises. So I'm going to be installing these max speeding rod coilovers onto my yellow Is300. So first things first, let's crack these puppies open. Okay, now all this is pretty straightforward. To get this wheel off, you just have your 5 lug nuts, and then when you take that off, you have your 3 nuts on the top and your 1 nut on the bottom. It's usually too big to get out of there, so let's see what we could do without creating too much work for ourselves. So the bottom bolt is 17 millimeter and the top is a 12, so I have them all unbolted. Now what I'm going to try to do is, usually to get these out, people have to break the upper ball joint, but I'm thinking, excuse all the spider webs, this car's been sitting for a while. What I think is if I drop the sway bar, you should be able to kind of bounce it enough to kind of move the bottom of the coilover out this way and see if you can wedge it out. So that's what I'm going to do. So the tricky thing about this sway bar is that when you try to loosen this bolt, this little stud will spin. So what you have to do is, I have a ratcheting wrench, whatever wrench you want to use, and then you have to stick an Allen wrench in here. In this case, this is a 3/16. You have to hold the Allen steady while you loosen the nut. So let's see if we can get that done. Okay, so now that I have the sway bar end link unbolted on both sides, you can try to fold the sway bar down just like that, enough to be out of your way to try to pull the coilover out. Or not the coilover, the strut and spring assembly. So see if we can pop that out. So guys, with a little pulling and a little adjusting, I was able to get it out. So what I had done was I left the top studs inside the holes. That way I can get the bottom as high up as possible. I got it above this perch and off to the left, and then after that all it took was a little bit of wiggling of this, because it can move up and down freely, and you just grab this with your hand and just work it out. Now this side might be a little bit harder because it has this headlight leveling sensor right here, which made it kind of a pain. So the other side should be a little bit easier. It also helps if you turn the wheel too. All of that will allow you to not have to break the upper ball joint loose. Now if you just want to do that, that's literally all you gotta do is break that puppy loose. But we did the whole sway bar deal, and that was it. If you look at the length between the old one and the new one is shorter. I think that setting is going to be pretty high. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to turn the coilover about 10 turns and just make it a little bit shorter. And then if we need to raise it back up, we can always raise it back up with it on the car. So let's slap this coilover in. And just like that, I would say less than a minute, I got it all in. It's way shorter, so obviously you don't really need to kind of finesse it much. So what I did is I just wedged it in from the bottom same way, enough just to kind of loosely snug these 3 bolts on top. And then after that, I used my legs to push up the lower control arm into the bottom of the coilover assembly. And that was pretty much it. That's all it took. So up next, we are going to yank out this other side. Make sure that all of your coilover perches are tightened with the spanner wrench before you call it done. Make sure you tighten these. I don't really know what the torque spec is. Make sure you tighten those suckers up pretty good, and you should be done with the front, and we can start on the back. I'd say the front is about ½ an inch lower than stock, but we want to go more than that. I think we're gonna take a break on the front and we're gonna get started on the back, and then when we're done, then we'll work on actual like level and ride height and stuff. So we're gonna get in the back. So a little bit more challenging because you have to take apart the lining of the trunk in order to get to the bolts on the top. So we're gonna jack the car up, we're gonna pull the lining off, pull the wheels off, and then we'll go from there. Okay guys, the back is pretty straightforward. Pretty much the same amount of work as the front, but you have to pretty much drop the lower control arm in order to get it out. I mean, you could probably get around it by using pry bars and stuff, but just me by myself here, it was just way easier by pulling out 2 extra bolts, dropping the control arm. The only problem is one of the bolts is a camber bolt. So you have to mark where it was at, make sure you put it back in the same spot. You're gonna need to get in alignment anyways, but you wanna make sure that both sides still match and your shit's not wonky, you know? So let's just do a step by step. Pull the wheel off. Up next, there's a few bolts that you wanna pull out, right? So you have the bottom shock bolt, you want to pull that out. That is a 19. Then you have the sway bar bolt, you want to pull that out, so that's a 12. And then right here, this is your camber bolt. As you can see, someone had adjusted the camber previously, so you see there's a little white mark right there. Don't get that confused, you want to mark it with this mark right here. So what I'm going to do is scratch that just with like a knife or something. There we go, that's good enough. I scratched it so that way when we pull this out, this is an eccentric bolt, so we can put it in the same spot. And I believe that is a 19 as well. So 19, 19, 12. And then in the back, if you pull the liner out of the way, you can see that there are 3 14mm bolts. I already have them backed all the way off, not all the way out, but just enough for it to catch it if it ends up falling. So we're going to crack all these bolts loose, and then we should be able to move the lower control arm down and pull the strut assembly out. And that is number 3. Last thing I completely forgot. I don't know why on the stock suspension that they have 2 12mm bolts holding the top of the strut to the frame. So you have to pull those out, and then pretty much the shock is free to come out. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple to install these coilovers. I think with you and maybe another person, you could probably do it in a little bit over an hour. Me, myself, I did it in about an hour and a half because, you know, I had to stop and set up the camera and stuff and do an unboxing, but it's overall pretty straightforward. I would say the hardest thing to do is just getting the proper ride height set. So I lowered it, before I even put it on, I lowered it 10 turns in the front and it was too high. So I lowered it 20 turns in the back. So we'll see how that looks, and if it looks good, then we'll lower the front 10 more turns. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put these wheels back on and knock it out, and then I'll show you the final result after I end up leveling out the car. Okay, so right when we pulled out of the driveway, I immediately felt something wrong, but luckily it was not the coilovers. So I brought the car back in, put it in the air, and I started shaking the suspension around. Lo and behold, the upper control arms were loose, but they weren't loose. They were just moving around because the metal inside of the bushing completely got blown out. Not only on the right side, but on the left side too. So that's why the control arm was just shaking around and they're causing like this really nasty sound. So luckily I had some spares because I've had a lot of Is300s that I do a lot of maintenance on. So I always hold on to the spares. I don't even know what I'm doing with these. These are trash. So luckily I threw 2 spares on there. It's time to test drive this puppy. Let's see how she drives. So we had to pull out the fender liner because it was really bad. And then after fixing the front control arms and stuff like that, I think she's ready to go for a putt. So let's look at the overall ride height right now. We're tucking tire, I don't know, maybe 1/2 inch in the front, a little over 1/2 inch in the back. So she's pretty low. Let's see how she drives. Oh, I also put these bucket seats in here so I sit really low now. Check me out. These seats are sweet. They're not too expensive, but I did find them on offer for deal. They're Pro Car bucket seats. So I got these puppies in, and I was able to get them mounted using the stock brackets that they came with for a Mustang, with a few modifications. So if you guys are interested on that, just hit me up on Instagram and I can kind of go through what I did and let you know. I gotta go to the car dealership to pick up my truck. I just got it serviced. So this is gonna be our test drive. Man, I am sitting so low. You guys are literally at my eye level right now. I can't even see the hood. I love it though, because I'm tall, and the normal seats were kind of bugging me. So we got no rubbing on a turn so far. Let's hit a pothole real quick. Oh, that wasn't too bad. I did stiffen the dampening all the way. I think, I don't know, whatever, 1-2-36 or 24 or whatever. I stiffened it all the way because I want it to be as stiff as possible. I don't want my car hitting the ground. But drives pretty freaking good. But I want to hit a couple potholes, you know, so we get the full effect. Just because YOLO. So I'm gonna go find some potholes. Well, now I'm driving to work, and I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. This thing rides really smooth, but to be honest, it's a little soft for me. But you can always like slap different spring rates and stuff on these coilovers. But I would say for the daily driven car, these coilovers are perfect. They're really comfortable, they don't hurt your back, and the car drives very, very smooth. Haven't found a pothole yet, but I'm still looking for one. We're gonna hit one. Oh, and also, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I got a new windshield. The old one was fucking cracked all the way across. And I fixed every single light on the dash. There's not one light on this dash now. Slowly but surely, guys, this car is gonna get some love. You're gonna see. But as for these coilovers, very impressed. All right, guys, about to hit the first big ass pothole. Let's do this. What you guys are gonna hear is the upper control arm smash into my shock tower. It's not a pretty sight, but that's what you get when you're slammed. Here we go. Oh shit! Well, the suspension handled it pretty good. This thing is just too damn low. Car handled really good. These coilovers, they work, you know? I slammed this sucker. I just got some wheels for it, so you guys probably see that in maybe the next video of us working on this car. And we're gonna manual swap it. I already got some manual parts for it, so we're gonna start manual swapping this thing soon. So we're just gonna make this car pretty much the ultimate daily. And thanks to Max Speeding Rods, they made that happen even faster because coilovers are expensive. Oh, update on the rest of the cars. I'm working on the 180 right now. I got the engine out. You guys will see that in a different video. We put a ZF in it and we put the clutch on backwards. It was a whole nightmare, but we're getting that straightened out. So motor's gonna go back in that, and then after that, things will be ready to drive. The Is300. The Is300 needs a diff bushing, so I can't even drive the thing right now. That's how bad it is. And oh yeah, here's a 6-speed for the yellow car. This is out of a 335i. This is it's called a GS653BZ off of the 335i twin turbo, like 2007. So in the next video we'll go over how we're gonna get that on the car and everything like that. But anyways, thank you Max Speed Rods. Thank you everyone else for watching this video. I'll see you guys next time.